hi everyone, I'm Kristen. Welcome back to my channel. Today is the start of another more vlog style reading, like monthly wrap up, which I started in June. I'm going to continue on for July. You're seeing July obviously, but I don't know how you reacted yet because my June wrap up is just going up today. I also obviously have some life and channel kind of stuff updates to talk about today specifically at the start of the video, and then you will, as we progress through the rest of the video, the month of July will progress as well. So just really quick channel sort of like life updates, whatever. I'm obviously very pregnant right now. By the time you're seeing this is like early August, and I'm due like relatively soon to when you are seeing this. So really the biggest change, or the biggest update, I guess, for the channel is that I'm going to try to keep it up over the course of the summer. Like that's the plan. And what I'm going to be doing, or the main difference that you will see hopefully, is that over the course of the fall, you're going to be seeing more pre-recorded videos, and then hopefully I'll be able to pop in with more like current in the moment type stuff. I think I'll probably like the currently reading will disappear because they're pre-recorded and I don't know what I'm going to be reading in the moment. I usually try to do it around when I'm like editing it and when it's about to go up, but hopefully otherwise there won't be too much of a difference. I've got some like recommendations list style type stuff planned for the fall, less in the moment stuff, but hopefully it will still keep happening. But this is my first child, so I really have no idea what to expect in terms of like how my life will change. Like I know that everything is going to change, right? Like you know what everyone says, you know the gist of that. But parenthood is something that I have always felt like is something that you just like, you truly will never get until you're in it. So not sure what to expect on how my life will change. I anticipate quite a bit, but I also hope that I'll be able to keep up audiobook reading in particular. I've heard that that is, you know, key for the first little bit. So send me all of your audiobook recommendations in the meantime, but I'm also going to be putting some lists together as well for you. But anyway, so that's like the big life whatever channel update, is that currently pregnant, might disappear briefly, but I do have some pre-recorded stuff plans for the fall. But back to my monthly wrap up. Today is July 8th. Only one book to talk about today, and that is Age of Myth by Michael J. Sullivan. This was the Pick My Next winner for the month of June, which was a new fantasy series start. This is the start of the, I think it's the Legends of the Empire series, which was one of my like unofficial, I never told you about priority series starts for the year. So I was really happy when it was selected. I would have been happy with like 4 out of the 5 options that I gave you, to be honest. But Age of Myth, I loved. So happy that I read that book, that I started that series. It made me feel, and I feel like there's books that I'm reading right now also I feel really excited about, and it just makes me feel like I must have just been reading the wrong things. I'm getting off topic. Age of Myth, what do you need to know? I'm going to be doing a full review for this that I have to film this week. So I don't want to say too much. I don't want to give everything away, but just like overall gist. So while it is multi-POV in that we do get a variety of different perspectives over the course of the book, I would say we have like 3 main characters, maybe a mini 4th. We all know that I'm bad at names. We're following this one guy, Wraith, I'm pretty sure that's his name, who at the start of the book ends up killing someone of a species that I believe they're called the Frey, who in their minds are like gods. Wraith is a human, and the Frey are like gods because they are not immortal, but they are like extremely long living, to the extent of like 3,000 years. Wraith ends up killing one. And that kind of sends like shockwaves both through the Frey world and through the human world and like settlement as well, because it wasn't thought to be possible. And then we also follow Persephone, killing it with the names. I'm certain her name is Persephone, and she is a chieftain's wife in one of the human settlements. And when her husband dies at the beginning of the book, she is sort of like left kind of a little bit in limbo and having to deal with being in a slightly leadership role or a past leadership role and taking care of her community with the fallout of this Frey killing, god killing event. And then we also follow, and here's where I'm going to forget the first name, but it was someone of the Frey world who She is a Frey person, they're like elves is in my head. And she is sent to take care of something in the human world. So that's like our three main characters, but then we also get perspectives of other people thrown throughout, including who I would say like a mini main character. It seems like she's going to play a pretty important role, is the character of, I want to say Ciri or Suri. Suri/Ceres is the mystic for the community that Persephone is a pseudo leader for. I would say this book does read a little bit like a very obvious, like, we're setting up for the rest of the series, because there are lots of things introduced. I mean, this is going to be a five or six book series arc. So we're setting up a lot of stuff. We're introducing the world and planting seeds of potential discord, mystery, conflict, character interactions and relationships. Like, it's setting up all of that in the way that it does feel like a setup book, but it also has like its own stuff going on in a way that it's not like boring like some setup books can feel. There were some like surprises or twists along the way, and I would say that for the most part I wasn't surprised until one. There were elements of reveals that I was like, yes, obviously that person did that thing. But there was one thing that totally caught me off guard to the point that I was like almost crying. And because I had literally just been thinking like, haha, Michael J. Sullivan, you haven't managed to get one on me in this book. And then he did. He just totally not swept the rug out from under my feet, but he like threw in this little twisty element. Sorry, my window's open and I don't know if it's a dog or dog barking in the background. Anyway, he did totally get me. It was a very emotional moment and I loved it. But overall, totally loved this book. I listened to the audio, and I would say this is an example of a book and an audio that is a very easy, consumable world building experience. I'm just going to close the window. I think this actually would work really well as a great starter fantasy because the world building was very, very attainable. It was good world building, but very easy to follow world building. So it made the audiobook totally possible. If you struggle with fantasy and sci-fi world building on audio, which I absolutely do, sometimes it's so complicated that I can't follow. And I had no problems following the audiobook, but I didn't love the audiobook. I didn't feel like there was enough distinction in his voices of different characters in a way that it made back and forth dialogue sometimes hard to follow, in that I couldn't tell who was saying what always if it was back and forth for a bit. But otherwise, it would be a very easy to follow. It was a very easy to follow audiobook. Thank you to everyone who voted for it, because otherwise, who knows if I would have gotten it. Now that you know what the rest of my year is looking like, who knows if I would have gotten to it. And I'm so glad that I did. Like, I've got some stuff on my plate for July, but I would like to pick the next book up in this series as soon as I can. Right now, I am currently reading. I did a poll a few days ago because I had like a bunch of books that I had taken out from the library and then never gotten to them. And the book that wouldn't burn by Mark Lawrence won. So I did start that. I'm reading the audiobook, but it's been very slow because I'm reading it right before bed and I fall asleep like after reading 10 pages. So I think I was like 2% or 4% into the book after the first week. I have had some time this weekend to like really, really push through and read a little bit more, and I'm enjoying it. I also, Witch King was like a close second because I had finished the audio for Age of Myth. I have some audiobook space in my life, and I picked up the Witch King audiobook, and I would say that that is an example of an audiobook where the world building is not working for me in that format. Like, I could not follow it and do other things. I would have had to sit there like listening like this. And at that point, you might as well just read the book. And the ebook, which I also have an ebook copy available to me at the library as well. So I put the audiobook down, and for the audiobook, I picked up The First Sister. And it is so good. I actually, because it was audiobook, I got like way further in The First Sister this week than I did Age of Myth. And that was actually one that was on my, pick my next from June that didn't win, but it's also another priority series for me this year, and I'm really, really loving it. So right now I'm currently reading The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence on ebook. I'm listening to The First Sister, and I might physically start rereading The Mask of Mirrors. I wasn't sure if I was going to reread them, but I think that I'm going to. So that's where I'm at. Enjoy the rest of this vlog. So, update. I finished The First Sister and I loved it. I'm so happy that I read it. Audio is amazing. Let me get out my notes and my croissant from the cafe and I will tell you a little bit about it. Okay, The First Sister by Lyndon A. Lewis. This was one of my priority series for the year. I believe it's a completed trilogy. It is a sci-fi, and I heard a lot about it last year. I think that's when the final book came out, so there was like a bit of chatter about it. And a lot of them consistently described it as being like a sci-fi that was really good for fantasy readers, and that really caught, that catches my eye a little bit because I would like to read or find a sci-fi that works better for me. And I find that like big space operas and like epic, as it were, sci-fi just really doesn't. A great example would be the sci-fi that we read for the book Checkout Book Club by Kate Elliott, the Alexander the Great retelling. I'm forgetting the name of it. So here is the setup for this that we start off with. The synopsis only actually mentions one character, but we do have sort of two POV characters and then this additional, I guess, POV, but it's in a different style. It's like set as if you're listening to the recording of this person, which is very cool. So our main characters are the first sister. She doesn't have a name. It's just like a title. It's a religious title. And then we also have Leto, who is from sort of like a different, like the opposing side, as it were. It's like a sci-fi duelist. This like cool sword that can change shape and stuff. I don't, again, like the details not clear on with like the sci-fi stuff, but I actually thought it was good. But anyway, so those are our two POV characters. And then we also have Hero. Hero is Leto's old duel partner. They were like all paired up. And at some point at the beginning, like pretty early on, I don't think this is super spoilery, Leto finds himself in the possession of some recordings that Hero arranged to have given to Leto. And so this is Hero telling their side of the story. The world is actually in our solar system, which I think was a huge factor for why this was such an attainable and easy to comprehend sci-fi story for me, because it was like relatable. It was planets that I know. It was Earth and Mars and Mercury and Venus. Like those are the kind of the two divides. And so it's now like Venus and Mercury versus Earth and Mars. So those are the two sort of opposing sides here. And as I said, because it was like in our solar system, it made the sci-fi type references very easy to understand and to like picture and comprehend, which is something that I do struggle with sci-fi books in general, is essentially the world building. Like once we start getting into like vast intergalactic galaxies and intergalactic governments and all of that stuff, it just in one ear and out the other, and I cannot like picture and comprehend it. So this, like the fact that it was local, as it were, made it so much better to follow. I really enjoyed the characters themselves, whether that was First Sister, Leto, and Hero. And I think that the author did it, I think this is Lyndon A. Lewis, but I think the author did an extremely good job of making the personalities and each POV sound very distinct. The audio did have different voices, so it was obvious whose chapter you were in, but I don't think if you were reading this physically or on the ebook, I don't think it would be difficult to open up a chapter and know exactly whose chapter you were in. It was very, very clear based on the writing. I haven't really said anything about the plot, but the plot is essentially, so, from Leto's side, we're getting this, that he's getting this like new role or this new mission and a new partner who clearly doesn't want to be his partner. On First Sister's side, she thought that she was going to be going into retirement with a captain who is retiring and finds out that that's not the case. And she's given this order by her religious order, to spy on the new captain, which is supposed to be like super against their religion. That's why they are not allowed to talk. It's that anyone who confesses anything to them, like, it can't be shared with anyone else. It's supposed to be super private, but she is now being asked, or essentially like told, that she has to report things that the new captain says, Saito Ren. She has to report what Saito Ren says back to the Motherhood. So that is sort of like the setup, the play here. As I said, I think it was really, really great sci-fi world building that was extremely approachable for people who struggle with sci-fi world building. Like, if you don't read sci-fi because it's like a little bit too much, this is a great sci-fi to read because of that. I feel like it was equal parts character and plot driven. I tend to see more of the character driven moments just because I am a character driven reader. So I see those moments, and I like to watch the character development as it progresses. But there was like action moments, there were big reveals, there's definitely this like roiling change under the surface kind of a storyline where, as I said, like, Leto is realizing some stuff about his society. It's very clear that neither side here is inherently good or better than the other. Both sides very clearly have problems. They're both doing like some sketchy stuff. And I like that. I like when the two sides are not, when there's not like an obvious good versus bad, right? We're getting both perspectives here. And it's really more going to be, it feels like this, how certain populations of people are being treated, and like an upheaval of like crap. This is like the main thing from pregnancy, is that I just have like no words anymore. Things being made better. That's the gist. Oh, I'm so sorry. My words just don't come anymore. So that was First Sister. I am really excited to keep reading on this series. I listened to the audiobook. I would highly recommend. The audio was so well done. It was and even like being sci-fi world building, it was very easy to follow on the audiobook. Super recommend. Really, really enjoyed this. I almost feel like I'm in a book hangover now because I can't quite figure out the right thing to read next. Which, yeah, let's talk about that. So I am still reading The Book That Wouldn't Burn. I've been reading it for like 2 weeks. I think I'm less than 40% in. It's not that I'm not enjoying it. I really am. It's very interesting. I totally get the comparisons to Piranesi that are happening. Even though I didn't love that book, I enjoyed a lot of that book. I just didn't like the way that it went, like what it ended up focusing on in the long run. I enjoyed the process before that. I don't have a lot of sit-down reading time, so I'm only reading it right before bed, and I read like 10 pages, and because it is a very slow, meandering, very detail-heavy kind of a book, I fall asleep. I'm like ready to go to bed after like 10 pages and fall asleep. So I'm making very slow progress here. Meanwhile, Empire of Exiles by, I think it's something Evans, won the Pick My Next for July, which was a missed new release from 2022. I do want to get to The Mask of Mirrors, which also just won the book checkout book club pick for the month of August, which I am really excited for. I didn't put this forward. It was Maria from Maria Might Read That. That was her pick. Mine was Tomorrow. Or that was like my, the one that we put forward for the community to pick from. Mask of Mirrors has won, and I was planning on doing a reread for it anyway. I will probably do it more in like July, early August than I will in like read it just in August. But I'm probably gonna miss the live show because of when my due date is, and we can't schedule this around knowing when the baby will actually come. So I will be really sad if I miss that live show, but it'll be what it is, and I'm glad that it's getting picked. But I also can't get an audio copy of The Mask of Mirrors. It's not at my library. It's not on Scribd. And again, I don't buy these things, so I have to physically read that book. So I got a physical book. I've got an ebook, Empire of Exiles, no audio. Looked around, other books that I'm interested in reading at the moment, no audio. And then as I was literally scrolling through the library last night, that like quick jump the line, take it out for 7 days thing came up for Yours Unfortunately by Tessa Bailey, which was one of the anticipated romance books that I had on this year. I did listen to the first, 20, 30-ish, 40 minutes last night. and I'm not sold. Mostly because it's pitched as an enemies to lovers marriage of convenience. It's very clear immediately in the first chapter from each POV, so dual POV, it's immediately clear that like actually they don't really hate each other. They're like super attracted to each other. So we'll see. I might keep listening to it. Otherwise, I'm on the hunt for an audiobook. It's already the 18th of July, and I have finished 2 books. 2 books? Yeah. So it's not going super fast. And honestly, I blame the book that wouldn't burn. Not in a bad way. Again, like it's an interesting book. It's very slow. It's very slow. See you in a bit. Okay. No, leave my socks, please. Oh. All right, well, that was a fun little comedy of errors there for you. Books. That's what we're here to talk about today. I did briefly pick up, or while I was scrolling, I picked up Yours, Unfortunately by Tessa Bailey. It was one of my anticipated releases for this year, the new Tessa Bailey romance book. That is unfortunately my DNF. This was pitched as a hate to love marriage of convenience contemporary romance where it has to do with trust fund situations. Enter the male lead, who is a guy that she knows through the wine world in California. Her family runs a vineyard, and this guy is also started or has started a vineyard as well. And it was supposed to be hate to love, but it's very clear immediately, like not just like within the first few chapters, within chapter number 1, which is surprisingly started out with the male's perspective. Well, you know, that's a little bit atypical to start with the guy's perspective, but right away, immediately, it's clear that they don't actually hate each other. They really want to jump each other's bones, and they hate each other because they almost slept together a while back, and she said something bad about the wine that he's making, you know? So it's like they hate each other. Within the second chapter, at some point, I was like, I might put this down. This isn't really working for me. And I decided to like give it one last go, and I picked it up that night, and it was just like, I maybe listened to 15, max 30 minutes more, and I was like, no, I'm not into this at all. I just kind of felt like it was like you couldn't go 2 paragraphs without them talking about or thinking about the other person and how into them they were. Like at one point, again, like this is within the first couple chapters of a hate to love romance where he's describing like his one biggest regret if he were to pass away like the next day would have been to like not having slept with this girl already. So just like it just wasn't working for me. I don't mind hate to love where it's like clear that actually they want to bone, but this was like a little bit too quick out of the gate, and it was clear in their inner dialogue that they didn't even really hate the other person. They just kind of like were like going off of this perceived persona that they hate each other. Not into it. I did need another audiobook, so I thought, you know, I pulled up Scrib again, like nothing was available immediately at the library. I'm on hold for a ton of things. But then I realized I had Into the Riverlands by Niveau also saved on Scribd. Planning to get to it at some point this year, thought, why not now? I need an audiobook. It's a super quick novella. I can listen to this and enjoy it for however long it takes me. Turns out that was a very, very short, very brief period of time. Now, Into the Riverlands is the 3rd book in the, I'm forgetting the name of this series. It's a series of novellas beginning with Empress of Salt and Fortune. And I read, and then When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, the first of 2, which novellas I read earlier this year. And I had heard that the audiobook was very worth it, so I picked that up for this one and I'm super satisfied with it. However, Into the Riverlands was not my favorite of these 3 novellas so far. I do believe there's a 4th one coming out later this year. In each of these, we're following a non-binary main character, Chi, who is a cleric. Their role, though, is more historian. They sort of like collect and gather information and facts and stories and history from within this empire, in the world that they live in. So I really, really liked each of those books. When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain was my favorite of the 2. And I liked it because it was like, you're hearing this whole story. It's a really interesting take on storytelling, but it had a focus of one story. And that's where Into the Riverlands changed a little bit. They're on like a little bit of a traveling journey here. Chi is in this one, and they wind up with some traveling companions for a bit. And rather than focusing in on one story that they're either like telling or taking in, they're almost getting like small, little, very short stories all about the Riverlands, which is the like geographical area that they're traveling through at the moment. I liked it more towards the end, actually. Like I really enjoyed where it went in the second half, I guess, of this novella, where Chi and their traveling companions kind of get swept into a little bit of a local story or like local legends. They kind of get sucked into almost the legends of the Riverlands. And I just wish it had been a little bit more focused in on a single legend or a single myth from this area, more so than it was. It's a really interesting series in that it deals with the idea of storytelling and the ways that stories are passed on, the ways that stories are changed, the way that real life is different perhaps, or history was different than how things are told. And so I enjoyed what it was doing, but I didn't, it just was a little bit unfocused perhaps, I guess, for a novella. As I said, it is the 22nd. We're like rapidly approaching the end of the month, as well as like my due date is a terrifyingly short amount of time away from now as well. It came to me last night kind of thing that perhaps I should be reading some of the like, you know, birth, having a baby, fourth trimester kind of prep stuff that I have, and I haven't done that yet, so like should get on that, but also, you know, could do this as well. So on the what I have actively been reading outside of after finishing the very rapid Into the Riverlands. So I was reading the book that wouldn't burn. I am enjoying it. I don't think it's like bad slow. It's just slow for right before bed when you're very, very pregnant and tired. I also am like, either I did yesterday or like today, or I'm about to lose my library hold for it. So I've just kind of given up on e-reading that one, and I did ask for it again, but I've also gone on hold for the audiobook. And then I did pick up Empire of Exiles, which was the winner for the Pick My Next for this month. So I am reading that, enjoying that. Everyone voted, or the vast majority voted to do a reading vlog for that rather than a full review. So I have to start that vlog as well. I'm just a handful of chapters in. So that's where I'm at. The book that wouldn't burn, put down, have to wait for a new library hold on that. Probably gonna switch to the audio as it is. Empire of Exiles is my ebook currently. I'm definitely gonna pick up The Mask of Mirrors very, very soon, to be honest, because I have to get through that. Because on August 1st, Cassiel's Servant is coming out. And honestly, like, I have been like struggling with like, what do I want to pick up next? And now I'm like, I must not get into anything too big, because everything is being put down so that I can pick up Cassiel's Servant on August 1st. The Dream of Blade, I believe, by Daniel Abraham, the second book in the Kithmar series. It came out the other day, and my library just like isn't getting a copy of it yet, despite the fact that they have Age of Ash. So I'm a little bit disgruntled about that. I do really want to read it, but not enough to buy the ebook for sure. Especially because I think that haven't actually spent any money buying books this year. Like, I'm going to in August. I'm going to be getting The Labyrinth's Heart. I'm going to be getting Cassiel's Servant. Not undecided yet whether that one will be an ebook or physical, but ebook money is not being spent on Dream of Blade, let's say that. So I will leave you there with those scattered thoughts. Next time I check in, obviously you will hear what I got up to, what I went with, and we will see you then, I guess. Okay, it is August 1st, so I gotta wrap up this July reading wrap up? Yeah, monthly wrap up. If you would like an insight into my state of mind and being right now, it is those last 10 seconds. So I'm a bit of a mess. I'm gonna eat this popsicle while I conclude this wrap up. I have not finished any other books since I last checked in with you, for a variety of reasons. One of which, like, I would have finished Empire of Exiles, but it literally got taken away from me in the middle of like reading a sentence because my library hold expired. So I haven't been able to finish that book. I am on hold again. I got to finish that. That was the Pick My Next for the month of July, I believe. I almost finished it in July, but alas, I have not. I feel like this past month was a little bit scattered. Like I had like 2 really solid, great reads, and then I had a bunch of books that were just like chaos. Like I DNF'd a bunch of books, like some of them soft DNFs. Let's go through that. So I sort of soft DNF'd Witch King in that I like listened to the first couple chapters and was like, I can't do this on audio. I'll hold out until I have the ebook at the library available and time for it. I solidly DNF'd, like hard DNF'd, Unfortunately Yours by Tessa Bailey. I picked up The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence and lost my library hold on that one as well. I think I took both of those books out a little bit before I actually started reading them. So then by the time I got a chance to start reading them, I didn't have enough time. So that's also like a soft accidental DNF. I'm going to be picking that up again. It's on hold. And I specifically have also requested the audiobook as well, because I think that will just help me get through a little bit faster. I am really like struggling with physically reading. Despite that, I keep not picking up audiobooks because even though I could continue in the series of the 2 books that were extremely successful this month, which was Age of Myth, The Legends of the First Empire, and The First Sister, which I think is just called the First Sister Trilogy, I have access to both of those next sequels, both of the next books in that series on Scribd audiobook. I'm like saving them for post-delivery life. Stupidly. Could have been listening to them. Probably could have finished them. I'm not making sound decisions right now. What else have I almost read? I have started reading the physical copy of The Mask of Mirrors for my reread of that. Just a reminder that we're going to be reading The Mask of Mirrors for the book Checkout Book Club during the month of August. The link for the Discord will be down below, where you can chat about reading it over the course of the month. And then the live show is going to be, I believe, the first weekend in September. I think that's Labor Day if you are in North America. I think we're just deciding on a specific date, like what, Sunday versus Monday at this point. Stay tuned for that. I may or may not be there for the live show. But I'm rereading that. But again, same with like, it's actually even harder to read a physical book because I can't read that after my partner goes to sleep and turns off the lights, right? Whereas like ebook, you can like hide under the covers and, and read a little bit, but the physical book, you kind of need the light on. So yeah, finishing up July with like 3 books that I have started and not been able to finish. Really, actually, it's 4. So 4 books that I have on the go at the end of this month, not finished. Here we are, such is life. I only finished then. Did I only finish 2 books? That's kind of sad. I should have just pushed through with The Book That Wouldn't Burn. Anyway, that's where we are at with July. I have also been listening to a nonfiction book. I know, I'm surprised. But basically because I couldn't decide on a fantasy audiobook, or like didn't have access to ones that I wanted to read in this moment on audiobook. And that is called Crucial Conversations. It's a nonfiction about having like successful high stakes conversations, like good communication. Thought, you know what? My partner and I are going to be bringing like, having our lives totally thrown upside down with this new situation. Probably going to be some high stakes conversations where like emotions and whatnot are running high. Why not give this a little gander? And it's going okay, surprisingly. The audiobook. So I'm going to be done work soon. I'm going to just have like Poppy and like finishing up, getting like prepared and whatnot. So hopefully I will have more time to read. Cassiel's Servant comes out today. Buying that ebook, like basically as soon as I finish all of the filming that I need to do today. I have to finish, I don't actually have to finish The Mask of Mirrors and The Liar's Knot between now and August 16th or 15th when The Labyrinth's Heart comes out. But I would like to, so that I can read The Labyrinth's, I'm gonna read The Labyrinth's Heart like when it comes out, no matter what. And then there's the Pick My Next, which is the video that I have to film and then like edit and immediately release today. So like those are the 3 books I like solidly have to, at a minimum, I will be reading those 3 books in August. Cassiel's Servant, The Labyrinth's Heart, and The Pick My Next. And then there's a smattering of those other things when and I have to finish Empire of Exiles. But other than that, it's just gonna be like, whatever. We'll see what happens in August. That is where we're at. I will see you guys next time. Let me know what July was like for you. I feel like the summer months can be so hit or miss with reading. Either you're like relaxing on vacation and reading a ton, or you're relaxing on vacation and not reading a ton. It could go either way. Has your month been as chaotic as mine has been? I don't know. Let me know, and I will talk to you guys next time. Bye.